you're getting close to retiring and you're talking about this importance of generalists right now. What would you recommend to folks who are on the earlier part of their careers? How can they be really knowledgeable about different things so they don't pigeonhole themselves throughout their career?
Well, first of all, you know that is a really hard question. So, you're in a job and you've got bills, and or you might have a family, and you're doing the same thing every day, and you know that you're looking at a slice of what you'd really prefer to be looking at. So I think certainly you can go to conferences and get trainings. And if you're fortunate, your company will be paying for it anyway. But sometimes your company isn't going to pay for it. So in the year 2000, 5 of us went to Europe for a little over 3 weeks, 5 countries. And we went to look at leading edge buildings to see what the Europeans were doing. And we did a lot of homework ahead of time to find out what the buildings were, who we should talk to, contacted people, got amazing tours from architects and engineers and builders, and we talked a lot to the occupants to be able to separate the hype from, so what's your experience in this building really? And when we came back, we did a lot of presentations on that trip. And Bruce Coldham, who was kind of the spark plug for it, an architect friend of mine, now retired, called it the Green Grand Tour after the days when people went to Europe and did the Grand Tour. This was the Green Building Grand Tour. And I can't tell you how many people said to me, how did you get a grant to do that? And I said, we didn't. We wrote checks. It was our money. It was our education. We thought this is something it was worth taking the time, right? Because it's 3 weeks of no income and it's outflow of money. It's an expense. So sometimes if you need to learn stuff, you need to learn stuff. And it isn't always just who pays for, someone else will pay for it. So I think that's one piece. The other piece within reason is looking around, if it's a bigger company, and seeing what other people are doing that you want to learn, and figuring out how that can happen, even if it's moving every couple of years to a different job within a company. That seems like that's one way to do it. And then I think the hardest thing is really getting clear on what you like doing, that really motivates and juices you. Because my theory is, one of my many unfounded theories, is that people who are smart and who are hardworking are good at many more things than the things that really feed them, And so it's not hard to get pigeonholed because you're doing something in an organization that meets other people's needs, and they give you a lot of positive feedback about that, but it's not what you want to do. And I have to say that over my working career, people have come up to me many times and said, I want to do what you do. It's so gratifying. And so it's different, with the courses that HeatSpring does, which are so amazing. You can bring people to a certain point, but then you got to get your hands dirty, right? So I don't know. That's such a hard question, but it's easy to get pigeonholed. Some of my closest colleagues are people that would go nuts doing the same thing every day. That's definitely true for me. So it's also mental health therapy to be a generalist for some of us, because we don't want to do the same thing. We're always learning in this field. I feel like we are continuing to discover, like the whole thing in the last 10 years of embodied carbon. In the last 2 or 3, people are really talking about it. But the people that looked at it early on, we had no data. Like the first calculations I did were using English data. from the University of Bath. And the embodied energy and embodied carbon of something made in a place where electricity is either cleaner or dirtier, it's different. So you're working with a database that isn't reflective of where you are. So I think that our tools are better, but we're always learning. And every time you peel the onion, the next layer is more complex than you thought, particularly living systems. So at the beginning of COVID, I took an 8-week online seminar on embodied carbon and wood. And the woman who put it together is just a brilliant woman, another architect and engineer by training, both. She's an academic at this point. And she founded the Carbon Leadership Forum. And so she's so connected, and she had industry, forestry people, and she just had a huge range of people, manufacturers. It wasn't slanted one way. It was, every week was on a different aspect of it. And I really got this sense about, wow, living systems are complicated. Not that that's a revelation, and that the simple answer is probably wrong. Right? I think one of the exciting things for a young person is you're not in a field where all the answers are there. And so that's exciting to me, but you have to be a person who emotionally, psychologically, you can live with uncertainty. I tell people, do this, and it's my best judgment. It's not a provable fact in many cases. Does that make sense? So I think it's, people need to know themselves